Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of Optimal Function. I am Dr. Craig Banks. I am here with my co-host, Dr. Jim Morgenstern.
How's it going, guys?
And our guest for today is Matt Wilhelm. He was a player in college for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So I'm repping a little bit of Ohio State gear today. And he played in the NFL. So, Matt, welcome. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's great to be here, and I think I've seen a few of your posts on Instagram, so I follow the podcast launch, and I'm excited to be a guest.
Well, yeah, we definitely appreciate it, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know your background's pretty extensive, especially in the football career.
Absolutely. So I am from a small little city, Lorain, Ohio, which is probably maybe an hour and 10 minutes northwest of here, where you guys reside and do your show. I started as a young athlete. I was enamored with Michael Jordan, first and foremost. So I wanted to be a basketball player when I grew up. So I was taller than everybody in my class. And then eventually everybody slowly caught up and I started growing wider, not taller. And my dad, as a fifth grader, pushed me into CYO football, started football. And it was a very easy sport for me where they just they put me, biggest, fastest kid, at running back. And I actually played that in high school too, which is really odd because my linemen were actually smaller than I was blocking for me. But it just came very easy to me, the game of football, and I just became enamored with wanting to be the best. Even furthermore, slowly got into when Tiger Woods was in his prime, and it just really came about winning. And I wanted to be the best and had an opportunity to go to O'Leary Catholic for high school. And we played in a great conference with some bigger schools than we were. And I just played my best against really good schools. And I earned the opportunity and caught the attention of some very big colleges and ended up going to Ohio State. And it was a close 1-2, ironically, between Ohio State and Michigan, oddly enough. But at the time, if you guys remember, this was like late 90s when it was Michigan had won a national championship. The 98 Ohio State team with Katzenmoyer and the defeating loss to Michigan State when everybody thought they were going to win a national championship. Those were the schools that I was visiting in the time that I was being recruited. So what a time. And chose Ohio State, played 4 years there, was a 4-year letter winner, 3-year starter. Culminated in the 2002 national championship where I was an All-American and obviously brought a national championship back to the great state of Ohio after a 38-year void. So it was amazing. Then drafted in the National Football League in the 4th round by the San Diego Chargers, not the Los Angeles Chargers. Right. I want to make that a point. Played 6 years in San Diego, went to the AFC Championship multiple times, lost to the Patriots multiple times. Then was released by the Chargers, as all players do, get cut eventually. It's a humbling experience. Then signed with the San Francisco 49ers. Had the opportunity to play for Mike Singletary, who was the head coach with the San Francisco 49ers. And then my 8th and final season was with the Green Bay Packers, and another amazing opportunity with the Packers. Played with Aaron Rodgers, and it culminated in a Super Bowl victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is, I know, very near and dear to many Northeast Ohio people's hearts.
Indeed. So were you a Buckeyes fan then growing up?
I was. I was to a certain extent, but I was actually, maybe like a lot of kids are, as I said, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, I was a front runner. So I loved NFL players. So I liked, at the time, I was a huge Dan Marino fan. So I knew the Marx Brothers, Mark Clayton, Mark Duper, O.J. McDuffie. So I was a big Dolphins fan. But I was always kind of cognizant of the early and mid-'90s Buckeyes players, Fickle, Finkus, Vrabel, those guys, Joe Germain, Stanley Jackson. And it was actually a kind of a shocker and a humbling experience for me to start getting recruited, because I was still just a young, dumb, freshman, sophomore at O'Leary Catholic, and just going out and playing a game, doing what I was coached to do. Obviously, bigger, faster than some of the other kids, but I just loved performing, and it's what got me noticed. And then all of a sudden, at lunchtime the next Wednesday is when all the letters from the colleges get delivered. I'm like, it was at that time Illinois and Iowa and Indiana and a bunch of MAC schools, Toledo, BG, and I was just like, wait, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I could maybe get a scholarship. And so I was just blown away by that whole process, and I just really just kind of put my head down and went to work without really having the ego of saying, oh, I'm gonna go to Ohio State, but because I never thought it was possible, until that first letter came from Ohio State, and I went, whoa, like that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's super cool. So now I know you're married. You have one child and one on the way.
Yes, two children, one on the way.
Oh, sorry, two.
That's
children.
okay.
And then big reveal.
Yes, it's an exciting time in my life. So my son is it's crazy. He's 11 years old. He's a big Wilhelm. He's a big bone boy. He's 11 years old. My daughter actually turns 9 on Monday, which actually will be, just behind when the podcast probably comes out. But then, yes, tonight we're actually doing a gender reveal for the surprise in our life, the Christmas present that we're going to have. We are expecting a child. It's due December 27th. My wife had two C-sections, so she'll likely have another. So it'd be born before Christmas, and our hopes are to be back at home to celebrate as a family with the new baby. Boy, girl, I don't necessarily know. But it's an exciting time, and it's an absolute blessing. And everybody that I talk to that has had a gap between children just say what a blessing and humbling experience that third one is, or fourth one, whatever it might be. But that unexpected gem that just fills your heart full of love.
That's awesome. I know you've been on the radio. You've done a lot of things. What are you up to right now?
So right now, I'm pouring time and effort into a company that we've actually started a little bit over a year ago called Clean Remedies. It is a CBD oil company, and just my wife's best friend and her husband. He was actually my financial advisor for about 6 or 7 years of my 8-year NFL career, just overseeing my 401k, my investments, my annuities, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, Darren is his name. His best friend fell into a hard time in his life and turned to prescription medication and antidepressants. And after 10 days of consistent use of the antidepressants, he committed suicide. So Darren made it his life's mission to find out, what was he taking? Of course, one of the side effects was suicidal thoughts. And Darren sold off his financial practice and his portfolio and invested that money, this is early 2010s, and went out into the cannabis world and to find a natural, holistic, homeopathic, non-synthetic way of combating the issues that his best friend had, and to be a part of something that, of course, now has exploded over the last decade, and invested time and effort into the acquiring licenses out in Oregon and in Colorado, and it was very successful, and then had the opportunity to expose me. And for me as an athlete, the one thing I've been completely transparent about is I've never been a cannabis consumer. I know, I would say, and this is just very rough, 60 to 70% of the NFL are using some type of cannabis product for the stress. Some use it before the game to help calm their nerves. I know the NBA use is very prevalent as well, even with the drug testing, which we can get into at a certain point. But I was never a user. So it was, he would always ask me, and I would always just pass. And then he brought back a CBD product, and it was different than the THC. It was no high, non-psychoactive, non-addictive. And I was like, okay, you got my ear. Tell me a little bit more about this, this natural remedy per se. And he exposed me to it. And at the time, I'd never been abusing pain meds or anti-inflammatories, but I was consistently using them because I still wanted to go to the gym. I still want to kind of look and feel like an athlete, and I'm still a competitor. Especially as my kids get older, I want to be able to coach them when the time comes. And so he exposed me to that product, and it was from a brand out west. It wasn't technically, the brand that we have now. And I was just feeling better and sleeping better. And ironically, last February, my wife and I, Darren and his wife, were on vacation, and we were just, again, having some drinks and sitting around a table with a beach, in a near distance. And we're just like, man, we should start a CBD company. And so we just started exploring those options, name, now it is Clean Remedies, and exploring, bottling and boxing and sourcing and everything that it takes to manufacture a product from the ground up, investments and outside investments, no outside investments. So that's really what I'm into now. It is, and it's an amazing space, to be very honest with you. Professional sports, and Craig, I know you this, from the bodybuilding and, Phil, your friend, and so on and so forth. It's cutthroat, and it's a business. And I'll be honest, it's been very refreshing to go into this space because it is still slightly gray from a legality and a political standpoint, but yet we are helping so many people, and so many people are turning away those doctor visits or those prescription medications in favor of CBD or full spectrum hemp extract products.
How exactly does CBD work for the people out there who are listening and don't really understand how it's different from marijuana? Everybody sees the 5 leaves and they're like, okay, well, clearly it must be marijuana, and it's not. So explain a little bit about how it works and what it does inside of the body.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. So the best way to explain it is cannabis, it technically is hemp and marijuana, right? They're sister plants of each other. And that's why they both technically kind of look the same. Marijuana, very high THC, very low CBD. Hemp, very high CBD, very low THC. Okay, so it's the why one is they're still in some cases generalized as being the same, but they're completely different, different plants and different effects. And so what happens is what we do is obviously we have a farmer that grows the plants, extracts it, then we blend an oil to turn it into essentially the CBD oil. And the way in which it works, there's many different ways, which I know we're going to get into on how you could potentially use a CBD type product now that's on the market. And what it does, and I'll kind of take a step back. There's a little bit of a history lesson, and it's odd because I know both of you guys are doctors, and the endocannabinoid system or the ECS system is a system in our body that we've always have, that kind of functions in line with our immune system and is essentially an extension of our nervous system. And not many people, and even furthermore, not many doctors are aware of the endocannabinoid system and how it works or what it is. And a lot of the reason is and it kind of takes the history lesson to go back to Prohibition. Hemp was actually used to make military uniforms, flags, clothing. It was obviously in our food because it was actually being fed to our livestock. So chickens, pigs, cows, the proteins that we were eating, they were eating hemp, so we were getting fed those cannabinoids to meet the demand of our endocannabinoid system to bring about balance or homeostasis. And it kind of goes back to why people were probably way healthier back then than we are now with all the synthetics. So you bring up a good point. The endocannabinoid system is in our system, working in line with, as I mentioned, our immune and our nervous system. And we have a deficiency because when Prohibition happened, they regulated marijuana / cannabis / hemp, and obviously deregulated alcohol, right? So alcohol becomes legal, cannabis, marijuana, hemp becomes illegal, which is then why the endocannabinoid system and cannabinoids in general and CBD type products was never learned or in any medical books for doctors to learn, which is why in some cases they are just not very aware of what it is, and some of them are still very leery of what it is. But to kind of wrap that up, we're finally, with CBD products being more prevalent on the market, we're finally able to, whether it be vape, tincture, dropper under our tongue, topicals, which I know we'll get into in a little bit, you're able to feed your body those cannabinoids to then meet and balance the CB1 and CB2 receptors that make up your endocannabinoid system and balance your body. So the best way to say it is, if I'm in pain, I'm in less pain because my body's balancing itself. Mm-hmm. If I'm anxious or stressed, I'm less stressed or less anxious because I'm meeting that demand of that endocannabinoid system by feeding my body the cannabinoids that are in, like CBD is cannabinoid, THC is cannabinoid, CBN, CBG, so on and so forth. So it is kind of technical, but something we've been missing for so long, you're now finally giving yourself to bring about balance or homeostasis in the body.
I love that explanation. So can you tell us a little bit about the difference between full spectrum, broad spectrum, and CBD isolate?
Absolutely, that's an excellent question as well. And I had an amazing talk last night in front of like 35 people at one of the stores that we have wholesaling Clean Remedies products. So the best way to say it is full spectrum. It's whole plant. It is the complete plant, all the cannabinoids, including THC. And the one thing I want to be very clear about is the THC level has to be federally legal, it has to be below 0.3%. Okay, so it's a small trace amount of THC. But For the full spectrum, and there's been studies, there's actually in 2015 over in Israel, there's an amazing study about full spectrum versus just a CBD isolate, and the medical and medicinal benefits of each of them. And the full spectrum, the whole plant, including that trace amount of THC, blows just CBD isolate out of the water from a medicinal standpoint. So full spectrum, whole plant, all the terpenes, all the cannabinoids working in unison to bring about an entourage effect. And so all of those working together to really, again, minimize the issues of whatever ailment you're taking this product for. I'll jump to the polar extreme is CBD isolate is single molecule. And we're all kind of gym goers, right? Same can be said if it's to a protein, like whey isolate. They have isolated the one single strain or single molecule of the protein, of whey, and they've isolated it. So in this case, there's over 150 different cannabinoids. What happens is when the plant comes down and it's extracted, then what they do is there's a system to siphon out and isolate just the CBD. So what you'll find is you'll find products on the market, and CBD right now, guys, is the buzzword. Everybody wants CBD, 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 as opposed to like Clean Remedies. We produce a full spectrum hemp extract, which is whole plant, all the cannabinoids working in unison, very high concentration, very highly medicinal. We do have a CBD isolate powder that we produce. It's a 2,000 milligram, small little puck, and it's meant to be like cooked with or baked with, or you can add it to a smoothie for the isolate. And the one great resource that an isolate is, and I'll get to like our middle of the road guy, which is the broad spectrum, as you mentioned, but CBD isolate there's absolutely zero THC, zero risk of popping a positive drug test. So for a lot of city, state, federal workers, drivers, nurses, doctors like yourselves, if you're succumbing to drug tests, you are absolutely in the clear by taking that CBD isolate because there is zero THC. The broad spectrum, as you mentioned, is the middle of the road. And Clean Remedies actually just produced a brand new broad spectrum product. It's a 1,200 milligram broad spectrum. And what it is plant comes down, completely extracted, and then that same process when you isolate the CBD out, we can actually do the same thing to THC. So all we do is remove the THC. So most of the cannabinoids, THC has been removed, but you get almost the same medicinal effect as the full spectrum because you're still using the whole plant. You're just extracting THC, and you get the same medicinal entourage effect just without the risk of the THC. So for someone who wants to not really chance it, they can use either the isolate, just the CBD, probably the lowest medicinally. The broad spectrum is going to be better medicinally with the zero risk, with no THC, and the most medicinal benefit if you have no risk of popping a positive drug test, because we at Clean Remedies always urge people to say there is a chance. And the reason why, is THC actually attaches to your fat cells. So your body weight, how active you are, how often you sweat, your age, all have a reasoning for how long something stays in your system. And so THC can stay in your system for just a couple of days if it's a small amount, or it can stay in your system for a couple of months if you continue to take, that tincture time and time again. It just kind of compounds and it stays in your system a little bit longer. So full spectrum, whole plant, broad spectrum, whole plant, extracting the THC to make it safe for those people that want medicinal and also to be THC free. Isolate is just single molecule. CBD has been, kind of extracted, and it is completely by itself, but also very, very safe option.
Yeah, very cool. Frequently, we talk about something similar when we're talking about like whole food vitamins, and people are looking at synthetics, and synthetics, maybe they'll say, ascorbic acid counts as vitamin C according to the FDA. Well, in reality, we know that ascorbic acid is virtually nothing compared to the entire vitamin C
Correct.
Molecule in the vitamin. So, totally get that explanation. So thanks. When we talk about CBD, are there any types of side effects that a user could experience at all?
Sure. I think the most, there's really no adverse side effects that can really affect your body in a negative way. I know that in some cases when you get a prescription, there's a laundry list of potential side effects with, nausea, potential headaches, and, all these other things. CBD and full spectrum hemp extract products don't necessarily have that. The one thing, ironically, and it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, you just have to be very cognizant of, is CBD and full spectrum hemp extract products actually, I don't say speed up, but your body is now balanced. It's functioning much better, which actually speeds up slightly, I guess you could say, your metabolism. And so if you are taking a pain pill or a prescription medication, it can accelerate the effects of that prescription medication. So what we at Clean Remedies and essentially a lot of companies out there, we always advocate that if you do start taking a CBD or full spectrum hemp extract product, and you're on a prescription drug, go to your doctor and let them know that you're taking it, because you would not be surprised if I'm taking a 30 milligram pill for diabetes or for pain or an anti-inflammatory, if I don't need a 15 now or a 10 with my use of a CBD type product. So it's something to be very cognizant of. But the really awesome thing about this is we have, just at our company alone, testimony after testimony of, I was taking 6 pills, now I'm down to 2. I was taking 5 pills, now I'm pill free. And it's just, I hate to say this, and I said this last night in front of that group of 30 plus people, it's kind of mind boggling for me to be in this space and for me to be, backing a company and backing a product that doesn't have a lot of holes in it, because everybody, especially in the internet today in 2019, you can find good, bad, and indifferent on the internet, and you can punch holes in pretty much anything, because everything's, can be portrayed as too good to be true, and all of a sudden you find out the dirt. So as of right now, I would say the political and the legal landscape are along with that prescription medication of working with your metabolism, are really like the biggest side effects. Because it's not, and I said this jokingly last night, and my wife says it better than I do, is the same number of people that have overdosed or died from CBD or full spectrum hemp extract products are the same amount of people that have been killed by a unicorn. Right? Unicorns don't exist, right? No one's getting poked, with the horn by a unicorn, and in some cases, no one's ever died from the use of this product. So it is safe, and we just, we stand on our soapbox and we just beat our heads, and can talk to people, and that's what's great about what I did last night, what we do as a company, and why I'm here right now. It's education, educate, because I think that middle America needs to learn about full spectrum hemp extract and CBD. From a business standpoint, for us to educate, because when middle America, which makes up 60 to 65% of our population, understands they don't have to go see the doctor, they don't have to pay the HMO, they don't have to, continually stay in the hamster wheel of prescription medication, and there's other options. Chiropractic is one of those things that I think is a better option as well. People are going to, be saving money and feeling better, and just internally and externally living a better, longer life.
And I know that, like you said, virtually no doctors understand this. I don't think at any point in my medical education, chiropractic education, did we even touch one little bit on the endocannabinoid system. And anything that I have learned about it, I've had to do through my own research.
Correct.
So I know that we don't get it as physicians unless we take the time to go out and educate ourselves. So I know you mentioned in regards to different types of delivery systems.
Yep.
We can see everything right now. I mean, I'm surprised they don't have a microphone made of CBD that they're trying to sell. What types of real delivery systems? I know we mentioned vaping and the oral solution, and I know there's capsules. Tell me a little bit about the differences between those delivery systems. What's most effective? What's fastest acting? And so
Sure,
forth.
absolutely. It's a great question. So number one, fastest delivery and fastest action for your body and I guess bioavailability is actually vape. And I know that, in today's world, with cigarettes and vaping in general, it's depending on who you talk to, it's got a different connotation and how they were kind of brought up and to understand it. But when you vape CBD, and in most cases when you vape, you're not vaping a full spectrum, you're going to be vaping a CBD isolate. Okay. So just getting that CBD in your system very, very quickly. The great thing about vape, and this is awesome for pain, for headaches, anybody that has any type of issue that just can come on very quickly, you can have, if you have that pen available, you can vape. A vape gets into your lungs and into your system and into your bloodstream in about 15 seconds. The downside of vaping, it only lasts about 45 minutes to an hour. The number two, which is Clean Remedies bestseller, and it's probably predominantly the product that you see whether you go to a head shop, a vape shop, a CBD shop. In some cases, Fresh Time, and now CVS and Rite Aid and Discount Drug Mart are going to be carrying CBD products, and some of them are going to be carrying Clean Remedies CBD products. Is you're going to see a tincture, and a tincture is just your old school dropper. You twist off the top, take the dropper with. And Clean Remedies, what's great about us, when we get into dosing, we have graduated markers, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1 ml on our droppers. You take it sublingually under the tongue, leave it there 15 to 45 seconds, and it absorbs, some of it absorbs into your bloodstream as fast as possible, and then you swallow the remainder. That gets in your system in about 25 to 40 minutes. You'll start to feel that calming, that functional calming effect. And the great thing about a tincture, a lot like a pain pill, 4 to 6 hours of relief for that headache, for that pain issue, the neuropathy, for the stress, anxiety. So what we sometimes dose is we have people just go 3 times a day, so they're kind of spacing it out. If you were taking a pain pill, I take my Advil at 9, at 2, and then in the evening, you can use your product or that tincture that very same way. The next, I would say, is you kind of get into your ingestibles in regards to both bioavailability and functionality. That would be your gummy. That would be your capsule. That would be Clean Remedies has a full spectrum fiber, so it's like a different delivery system to get down into your digestive tract as well. And that's going to also have probably like a 30-minute to an hour for the effect to actually come on. But you'll also see some higher doses in those types of products because the bioavailability and how much you actually absorb is small. And that's what you have to be leery about this entire space, to kind of go back to your point about everybody's producing a CBD product in today's world, and it's going to be sold everywhere. And so the opportunity to educate yourself on the company, educate yourself on what the label says, which is it an isolate, a broad, or a full spectrum, and to understand, the sourcing, the labs associated with those products is what's in it, actually what they say is in it, is kind of where we're at right now, which is why the space is very gray. But it gets in your system, and I would say probably half of what it says on the label is actually being absorbed in your system, which is why some people either take more or you see a high portion of CBD or full spectrum hemp extract in those products. And the last product that I think is from a functionality standpoint is your topical, and I think that's something that you guys know a whole lot about. But a topical, I think the greatest thing about a topical, and the way that I reference a topical, because we can get into some of the details of what we kind of have cooking, is a topical. You shouldn't just use a CBD type topical like by itself. I've kind of, and the way that I talk about it is like we have a 900 milligram tincture, and I think the 900 milligram tincture to give your body those cannabinoids and feed your endocannabinoid system to bring about the balance and to minimize some of the effects of the ailments that you might have. It's almost treating it like a multivitamin, and then whatever that acute pain is, my elbow, my low back, my plantar fasciitis, whatever, or my strain in my calf, is what you take that topical to, because you're not going to take a bath in a topical. So I'm meeting the demand by taking the tincture in my system, and then I'm going direct to source with the topical. And so the bioavailability is going to be a little bit lower, especially on a lot of the products that are out there, because they're just marketing the product. They're throwing ingredients together. There's no rhyme or reason, and then they're just blasting that there's CBD or full spectrum hemp extract in it, and there's no science or medical benefit behind it, which is why we're doing what we're doing, and to actually create something that is transdermal. So it's not only setting on top of the skin, meeting our mind and saying, oh, I put it on my elbow is cold, it feels better. It's actually penetrating and actually working. And that's something that you can speak on as well.
So, with my background with Kinetic Cream, I know we touched on that in episode 1. I do know a little bit about topicals, and a little bit. One of the biggest things that with Kinetic Cream has always been the fact that our ingredients go through the skin and decrease inflammation and decrease pain from the fact that there are transdermals carrying it. And many of the topical products out there, including many of the CBD products out there, they don't have any transdermals, and they're not crossing the skin. And I know for a fact that CBD is absorbed very poorly at the skin. Now, I'm not saying it's zero. It is not zero. So those of you who are out there and you're putting some CBD oil on your skin and you're saying, wow, it feels better. Yeah, it probably does to a small little extent. And then a lot of the companies out there that are putting these topicals out, they're blasting with menthol and camphor and tons of other things that are just making you cold and giving your brain something else to think about. So part of what Matt and I have been working on with Darren, and we're going to do the Kinetic Cream base that has the transdermals, and we're going to get CBD in this. So it's in the works. We've got our prototypes out, and they have been pretty phenomenal. And I've always said that any topical you can put in front of me, I think Kinetic Cream is probably better. And then when we added the CBD to Kinetic Cream, it took it to that next level. So I really can't wait for that to come out. And that's just a little bit of the teaser. It's not available yet. It will be distributed by Clean Remedies. So that's something.
Powered by Kinetic Cream.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's definitely something that we're excited about and, going in the future. So, Jim.
Yeah. So my next question is going to be, from an athletic standpoint, what are the type of benefits that athletes are seeing?
Sure.
And then, there's some studies out there that show that if you were to, let's say, for example, use a vaping source of the CBD, that you're able to work out longer. Can you kind of put...
Absolutely. So the one thing that was very glaring, and I think it was maybe probably almost a year ago, if not maybe just slightly less than a year ago, is the World Anti-Doping Association, essentially WADA, that oversees the Olympic testing, actually cleared CBD from their banned substance list. And now, kind of going backwards just for a second, those athletes would still have to use a broad spectrum product that was THC free, which Clean Remedies produces, and or a CBD isolate. So because there's still that trace amount of THC, and if they use that enough, either in a topical or in a tincture, that THC is either going to give you, it's going to be a false positive or a positive test that'll probably put you above the nanograms per milliliter, and you'd get popped for that drug test and be perceived as a THC consumer, even though you were just using a CBD product. But how it's being used, first and foremost, what's great about CBD, and I think it's relevant to not only athletes, bodybuilders, physique competitors, endurance athletes. CBD used consistently actually reduces the production of cortisol. In our brain. Cortisol, for all of you who don't know, it's the stress hormone. And when we stress our body naturally reacts and produces cortisol. Cortisol then preys on lean muscle mass. So I have found in myself personally with consistent use that I'm only getting older. I'm working out as much as I can, but not as much as I'd like. But I'm able to actually stay lean even with my nutrition not being completely on point, just with that consistent use. And I'm saying a small percentage. But so for me, a lot of people, well, how do you use it? And I actually use it as a pre-workout, a post-workout, and before bed. And the reasoning behind that is the pre-workout is to go back to what I just said, to reduce the production of cortisol, so that my body is then preying on carbohydrates and preying on fat when I'm in that burning state and that stressed state. And then as I said, I'm not lifting what I used to lift, but I'm still lifting as best I can, which is then tearing my body down. I'm then putting those regenerative effects, those balancing effects, the homeostasis as a post-workout into my system to help me recover. And then the one thing just for me, given I've got, L5-S1 bone on bone, I've got some neuropathy in my right leg, so I have a problem getting comfortable and falling asleep. And also, as everybody kind of rolls over and, kind of tweaks in the middle of the night, it's like I then wake up and can't, stay asleep. So what I have found, and I did it for a while, and I urge anybody that uses a product that has trouble or would be taking it to sleep, is use a sleep tracker. And I even had a chance to talk to a lady last night that was like, oh, my sleep tracker tells me I'm truly getting like 3.5 hours of quality sleep, but I'm actually in bed for 7 to 8 hours. And I think that's the biggest factor and eye-opener that it was for me. It was, my wife and I could both tell I was falling asleep faster. The biggest factor, and what was most eye-opening for me, wearing a sleep tracker or an Apple Watch or whatever it is you use, I was, of course, waking up feeling more rested, but then when you dig into the data and you dig into the analytics, it was, I'm plummeting into that REM phase and I'm staying there longer. And it was just consistently time over time over time. And it just, and it's especially, like, I mean, and the guys that you associate with is like, sleep is as important as what you do in the gym, is as what important as you put in your mouth nutritionally. If you don't get sleep, you're never gonna get lean. You're never gonna grow. And because it's when we recover, and I even have to tell my 11-year-old son, I'm like, it's summertime, he wants to stay up late. I'm like, dude, just so you know, like, you do all your growing as a kid when you sleep. I said, so you need to get 10 hours, So that's my, and I'm not saying that he's on CBD or anything of that sort, but it's like, sleep is when you recover, and it just helped me get a deep night's sleep. And so athletes are using it for all of the same reasons. And I think it's why you're actually going to see, probably in the near future, not necessarily at Clean Remedies, but you're going to see, the IV therapy is a very big thing now. So I wouldn't be surprised if like a CBD isolate or a water soluble CBD type product is going to be added to an IV, or those IV cocktails for athletes, along with B12 and B vitamins and all that other stuff as well. So it's very prevalent right now. And something we talked about before we jumped on air, I would not be surprised because the NFL right now is almost 1 year away from their current collective bargaining agreement to be up. And I know that there's warning signs that there could be a strike. And I know that the NFLPA is warning players to start saving money now because there's going to be a lockout. And that's going to have a lot to do with money. But the one thing that's privy to some of the information that I have, that owners, even though they're billion-dollar control freaks, they're becoming so much more lenient when it comes to cannabis because they understand so many of their athletes are using it already. And it's a black eye to the owner, the team, the city, themselves, the coaches, and everybody when your guy gets popped. And then also, they're suspended 4 games. It costs them a lot of money. It's just a big black eye. And they just know it's so prevalent that I think, and this is my perspective completely, and I've said this before to a few other guys that I know play in the league, is I think as they get lenient on cannabis / marijuana type products and that THC in their system, that CBD is going to become just like the World Anti-Doping Association and likely be approved. So it's just a matter of what source these athletes will be getting their CBD product, whether it be an isolate or broad spectrum, and what company they use is obviously yet to be determined.
Yeah, awesome. That's pretty intense, and it's really good because, like you mentioned before, so many of these people end up turning to massive amounts of pain medicines and the cortisone shots and all the other things that.
Dude, I got to share this one quick story on that same point. In San Diego specifically, and it's not nothing against the doctors, but I just recall 2 things. It's like you would, and with Toradol wasn't the anti-inflammatory injection that we would all get, in our cheek. But I just remember 2 things. Is A, I would stand in a line of 10 to 15 people, like it was like a bathroom stall line, with your uniform on. You're about to go out, for pregame warm-ups, and you were just all in line because they have to sign your paper, to say that you're giving him X amount of dose or X amount of drug, and you would just literally go shoot it, the needle in your butt, and you pull your pants up and you walk out, go get your helmet, and you run on the field. 10, 15, 12 guys. And then here's the other kicker, which is, again, kind of goes back to, that liver kidney functionality that was kind of waning for me post-career because of that consistent use and my body's inability to process the synthetics. It was, once you had an injection, you could never not play another game without an injection. So guys would hold out. Like, say I rolled my ankle, I've got an ankle injury, but it's not bad enough to get a Toradol shot, because you knew once you got a Toradol shot and you felt like Superman on Sunday, you could never not play again without a Toradol shot, because you're just masking that injury. And it's a performance business. You were at your best on a Sunday, you felt horrible on a Tuesday, and then it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, back to work, practice. In some cases, the guys that got paid all the money got to sit out. Us guys just had to go back out and practice. And then it was be your best on a Sunday. Be your best on a Sunday for 16, with an opportunity to obviously get into the playoffs, which I had, was reluctant to do multiple years. But it was, you had to hold out as long as you could, because once you had one, you could never not have one again, which is kind of scary.
That is scary.
That's insane. I mean, you think about the fact that they were legitimizing it simply because it was a prescription medication. Yep. It's the only reason it was legitimized. Forget about all the side effects. Forget about what you're saying. Forget about what it's doing to your body in the long run. Whether it's, now they're coming out with more and more things saying how that repetitive use of whether it be cortisone or whatever, they're degrading everything in your body, not just your muscle,
Right.
but now your cartilage. There's just said that cortisone in your knees will massively decrease the meniscus height and the cartilage. So it's just mind-boggling, and I think that maybe with the revolution of CBD, there might be something to really look forward to in the future of athletics with pain management, because we shouldn't be killing our athletes just to keep them on the field. And if we can do something safer to keep their pain down, I just don't understand where the holdup is on that.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with education. And I think, owners and people of power and, people in politics just don't know, or they're not going to the right sources to be educated. But I think you're absolutely right. And it's sad to some regard that you're being paid handsomely to provide a service, which is to go out and perform. And all they technically care about is that when you're under contract or you're on this team, that you are at your best and that you're able to go out and perform. And as I said, the Players Association cares about you now and later. The NFL and the owners and the team that's writing you that big check only cares about you right this second, and could care less whether you're in a wheelchair, you have heart failure, you have kidney failure, all those things 10 years removed from the game. They could care less. And so it was really, and that's why I urge so many people. I reference modern medicine in today's world. It's especially I would say 50 to 80 demographic. It is doctor appointment, test, scan, doctor appointment, prescription, up the prescription, down the prescription. Oh, this hurts now. It's this cycle. And in some cases, professional sports is the same exact cycle. I mean, look at the Kevin Durant issue, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that has nothing to do with CBD or full spectrum hep extract or anything in that regard, but it was at the biggest moment with an opportunity to three-peat. And I don't know the details of it, but it was team arrogance, team ego to get him back out there and risk his career, or Kevin because it was the team's better without him, and it was I'm going to prove you wrong, ego, and you need me, ego, arrogance to go out there. And ultimately, the guy's going to still be paid handsomely, and he's one of the best, basketball players in our era over the last 5 years and probably the next 5 years. But it's going to cost him a year of a game that he loves.
Yeah, that was like one of our main topics of our last episode. So hopefully, if you guys are out there listening, share this with the NFL owners, because this is the way that people are going to get the education. It's from stuff like this. You're not going to be picking this up in books, and you can get a bunch of garbage on the internet. Yeah. So you really are going to have to take the time and find sources like us. And I know that we're not the only ones, but find things like this to listen to and learn, and then share it, because that will make a difference for the future. So we want to know about Clean Remedies, where to find them, find their website, their Instagram. So tell us a little bit about that, and about where to follow you, because I know you don't use your Twitter much anymore.
No,
but
yeah, right.
It's there. It's out
I
there.
am absolutely. So www.cleanremedies.com is our website. We offer all of our product line, all of our tinctures, our current topical. We'll have the Powered by Kinetic Cream topical probably in the next 45 to 60 days. We've got some unique products, and probably like once a quarter, I would say we're consistently trying to evolve. We just launched the broad spectrum, so the THC-free product is really exciting. We actually did a peppermint product to kind of cut the earthy or hempiness of the product as well, to make it a little bit more flavorful for your palate. Cleanremedies.com. We obviously it's live 24/7. We never close online. We've got wholesalers all over the country. As of right now, we're in like 29 different states. We've got probably 75 to 100 stores in Ohio. We're just growing very fast. It's been a little bit of a passion project for us, because it was a company that was built out of tragedy. Mm-hmm. And for me, and I mean, Craig knows me, but it's like I'm never going to endorse something or just because I'm being paid to do so. So it was CBD helped me first. Then I became a user, then an advocate, and then I became, a part owner of Clean Remedies, because I was realizing that it was something that I was going to use for a very long time and is very influential to me. And of course, just some of the losses in our life we've had, via different deaths. Just coping with some of that, CBD was a huge advocate for us. So we're not just out there trying to make a buck. We're actually just trying to help people and spread and have this entire space be such a big win and expose people to the education associated with CBD and products like ourselves.
Awesome.
At Clean Remedies as well on Instagram. Follow us. I would say, little teaser, we have about every holiday, and there's a big one coming up where fireworks go off in the air. There's going to be sales, so look out for a sale coming on the 4th of July, and those new products as well on Instagram. And follow me. You can follow me on Instagram as well, Wilhelm57. I'm a subdued kind of personal guy. You might see the gender reveal video very soon on my Instagram as well. So I appreciate the follow. But yeah, Twitter, I'm not a man with much words on Twitter.
All right. Jim, you got anything else for Matt?
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, for being
My
here. We
pleasure.
appreciate it.
This is awesome. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you so much. And guys, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back, and we'll see you guys soon.